Hello YouTube, Oliver G here from the Earful Tower podcast. This video is the Pantheon to Shakespeare and Company bookshop with all the little roads in between. That's what you're about to see. Also, what you're about to hear is a podcast episode from when we explored these exact parts of the city, the 5th arrondissement for a day, and everything we recommended and what we thought of it. This arrondissement it's a very popular one and we enjoyed it an awful lot. The whole season is brought to you by Live Tours. When I asked them what they thought was the best thing to see in this district, here's what they said. We love the 5th. Bookshops abound thanks to the proliferation of students, and there are jazz clubs, classic movie theaters, cool cafes, historic sites, and world-class gardens. Whether you're a master gardener, have a green thumb, or aspire to keep houseplants alive, we recommend visiting the Jardin des Plantes. It's spacious and spectacular and includes large greenhouses and themed gardens, an alpine garden, an ecological garden, a rose and rock garden, and a maze. If you're the sort that misses your garden when you travel, then you'll definitely want to visit Giverny. Giverny, of course, is the garden that Monet painted over and over again and the house where he lived for the last 30 years of his life. Giverny, like the Jardin des Plantes, is inspirational and profoundly beautiful. So there you go, that's Live Tours encouraging you to get out of the city of Paris to nearby Giverny. I've linked below to their tour of Giverny. They also do Versailles and they do a bunch of walking tours in Paris. Check them out, livetours.com, linked below in the description. As for us, let's keep walking through the left bank and down to the river. Enjoy the episode and keep an eye out. About halfway through, we pop into Messy Nessy's cabinet. Messy Nessy chic, of course. Vanessa Graal featured on a very recent podcast episode of the Earful Tower, so now you can get a little look inside her shop too. Let's get into it. Here we go. Salve, Lina.
Salve, salve.
Salve to everybody at home.
What is salve, you might wonder?
Well, I hope that it's how to say hello in Latin, because we're in the Latin quarter this week.
I really hope so, because we've been salving our way through the 5th arrondissement.
To the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker. We may as well get that fact out of the way straight away. The Latin quarter. That's a large part of the 5th arrondissement, which we're focusing on today, and it is so named because the students used to study in Latin. And my cursory Google, before we started the YouTube video, was that the way to say hello is salve.
So there we go.
Yeah. So that's the episode for today. We're going to be talking about the 5th arrondissement, everything we did there in a very enjoyable and very full day. We'll talk to you a bit about the vibe, and we'll share some of the tricks and secrets and things that you can find if you plan to visit yourself.
Yeah.
Lina, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Let's do it.
Jazzy.
That was cool. That's the first time I've heard it. Press Maxim on the music as usual. I'll talk a bit more about what he's done at the next point of music. But for anyone playing at home, that was Jacques Brel, Place de la Contrescarpe. We'll get more into that.
How very fitting.
Yes. More on that in a second. Let's start with the vibe. There are people listening. There are definitely people listening going, 5th? What's the 5th?
Yeah.
If my mum's listening, no idea.
Yeah, sure.
No disrespect to my mum.
No, my mum wouldn't know either.
No, neither of them.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have any clue what's going on. So we'll explain it to you. As these districts get sort of smaller in number, we're getting more and more central. So now we're pretty much central Paris.
Still on the left bank. The last one on the left bank.
True, yeah. Oh, farewell to the left bank.
Yeah, farewell.
So we're on the south side of the River Seine. Basically, imagine you're standing at the Notre Dame, looking across the river to the south. That's where we are for this whole episode.
That's right.
Famous because it's very, very old. thousands of years old. The Romans were kicking around here 2,000 years ago.
And it holds a part of your beloved wall, the Philip Auguste wall.
Should we...
A few hotspots
should
right there.
we talk about that for a while?
I don't know.
I think we should do a little bit. We should do a
Okay.
little bit because it's not going to be part of the episode.
All right.
Right?
Go on then.
So...
Indulge.
Yes. One of my favorite things in Paris is that 800-year-old city... I'm trying to keep it quick. The old city wall that ran around all of Paris started on the right bank, then went through the left bank a couple of decades later. Got swallowed up by the city. You can find some really cool traces of it. Knowing that I might nerd out on it, I purposely kind of avoided it for this visit. And what we did is we tried to have a really eclectic mix of contrasts for the things that we visited. So you're going to hear of our visit to like ancient museums,
modern cafes,
and like a mosque even, and an old library.
Yeah.
And a heckload more than that too.
And a jazz night.
So, oh yeah.
To finish it off.
So let's talk about impressions of the district.
All right.
There was something between us both that we discussed when we were there that was kind of interesting. We walked around for a while and I was like, Lina, I think I'm more of a fifth person than you.
Yeah, that's true. We did say that. And I was like, oh yeah, I tend to, if I choose, let's drop ourselves on like Boulevard Saint-Germain somewhere like in the middle there.
Yeah.
I would definitely veer towards the six.
Yeah,
like,
you'd be veering.
Yeah, I'm veering.
Yeah.
And you're like veering the other way.
So let's explain why we say that so people can get a sense. I know a lot of people know exactly these districts. They're probably two of the most famous ones in Paris. The six, which we covered last week, is very elegant.
Yes, it's
classic.
Quite fancy, very classic. A lot of fun people watching. It's a bit more expensive, I'd say.
Yeah.
With all the big brands and all of that.
And you find yourself comfortable over there.
Oh, this is uncomfortable.
No, but it is. There's a sort of refined elegance there.
It's just nice.
Where the fifth has, it's definitely not the same kind of elegance.
Yeah.
It's a bit rough, not rough, but like it's definitely not rough. But it's like you're more likely to find student bars, sort of
Definitely.
dingy
I feel
restaurants.
like there are no happy hours in the sixth.
Perfect
I mean, I'm sure there are, but
perfect explanation.
you know, there are the fifth kind of. Yeah, it thrives on happy hour.
And when you see a bar with a sign out the front saying, like you in the seventh, you don't see happy hour almost anywhere.
No, I don't think they know what it means.
I don't know if there are any happy hours. There's one Irish bar that might have it.
It sounds very sad.
Yeah,
Only sad hours.
Yeah. And the reason being, around the seventh, typically a lot of the people have a lot more disposable income and would rather buy an expensive drink.
And are older. Not so many students.
Whereas-
except the American university. But still.
All of them are going to the fifth for the drink.
Yeah.
And bring it
They're
back to this. The fifth is, like when I said dingy restaurants, I'm even thinking the one where we went to, that we'll talk about later. Like the restaurant we went to had, like, it looked like newspaper cutout pictures of celebrities, black and white, put in cheap frames and like scotch taped,
To the
sticky
wall.
tape to the wall.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like what I'd consider one of the classier joints in the area, right?
Sure, yeah.
There's more likely to be Irish pubs, students, people getting drunk, mixed in with all the loveliness.
It is, like, don't get us wrong. It's so nice. It's beautiful.
It is. It's wonderful.
But it's definitely more of a happy hour place
I think it's got more character.
than the sixth.
What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say so. More stories.
I've called it
Perhaps.
in the headline the historic Paris, and that's because through the centuries and the millennia, probably a Latin word, millennia.
Salve.
There's just plenty going on there,
Yeah.
which we didn't find in other districts. Like think back to the 20th, or even the 18th,
Yeah.
19th. That top part of Paris, it's so different.
Yeah.
Like there's a museum
different.
with a Roman bath that was from the first century that I popped into. So that's the vibe. I think a lot of very popular with tourists.
Yeah.
We found ourselves face to face with a lot of tourists. I almost hesitate to tell the story from dinner in case they're listening to the show.
I think you should.
Okay, should we talk about it now or when we get to the restaurant?
Let's do it at the restaurant.
Okay, but it involves a flying snail, and that's true. So on the whole, I really like the district. I think I liked it more than you. I wonder if that's going to reflect in our scores. There's been places where we've been like, I could live here, and I said that a few times in the fifth.
Yeah, you did.
The downside would be that it's probably too noisy.
Yeah, it's very lively. Definitely. But it's great.
You know
I feel like we could have lived there maybe like 5 years ago.
Great point.
Pre-baby.
Starting point for Paris
Yes.
if you're young.
Yeah.
And don't get scared off if you're not young, because there's plenty of people of all ages.
It's a mixed bag.
Yeah. There you go. That's our definition of the vibe. They won't be copy-pasting that into Wikipedia.
No.
Hey, by the way, now that I say Wikipedia, if anyone out there is listening and is an expert in Wikipedia, why doesn't the Earful Tower have a Wikipedia page?
Yeah.
Can someone help me with that?
It doesn't?
No, it
I
definitely
didn't even
doesn't.
think about it.
I've noticed over the years that if you Google it, or if I Google myself,
Yeah.
which I do every now and again, to see what people are...
What's going on?
Yeah, what people are saying about
See who you are. You're in
That's
an
how I-
existential crisis.
That's how I find out when people write articles that mention it. So I just Google it every now and again. Anyway, over the years when you Google Oliver G, it comes up author. I don't know why. I guess it's
cool.
connected to Amazon or something like that. But the podcast still needs a bit of a...
It's just swimming freely.
Anyway, see what you guys can do. Let's get into what we did. So the music, Lina, this week and every week is from Press Maxim. He's getting fans. People are talking
I'm
about
not surprised.
People are talking about it in the members group.
I'm a fan.
Yeah,
I'm a mega fan.
So I just got to read what he sent in with this piece of music. And for anyone new around here, he's in America. He writes the music. He plays all the instruments himself. Some have called him a savant. Me.
Is that you? Yeah.
He said for the fifth, it's Place de la Contrescarpe by Jacques Brel. He's a Belgian, Jacques Brel.
Oh.
I've seen his house in
relevant?
Paris.
Just
He's not a French musician.
Oh, okay.
So yeah. On a personal note, says Press, this was my favorite arrondissement as a teenager visiting Paris. See, teenager.
Yeah, happy hour.
Yeah. Americans can't drink till they're 21 either. I bet. I wonder if he was an old teener, like a 19.
Ecstatic hour.
And my first CD of French music was Johnny Hallyday. Yep, fair enough. So I give a little nod to his song, Souvenir, Souvenir, in the middle of the full version of this song.
I love his music. It's always like, these Russian dolls. It's like a thing within a thing. Yes.
Yeah, that's true.
It's the matryoshka of music.
Write it down, Press. Straight on LinkedIn. Anyway, so he gives a little nod to that song in the middle of the full version, which everyone can hear on YouTube. Then I may have gotten carried away on the Memories theme, Souvenir, French for memories. And I included a bit from Zaz's song Si Jamais J'oublie, If I Ever Forget, before coming back to the fifth theme. This is a jam-packed song.
Yeah.
With a short quote from Dave Brubeck's Take 5 and Jacques Dutronc's Il est 5 heures, Paris s'éveille.
Oh, so good.
I love that song, by the way.
Me too.
I haven't listened to this full version
And Take
yet.
5, I mean, this is good.
On topic. I think Press has got his spot on the Earful Tower Hall of Fame, which doesn't exist yet. I think I mentioned it in previous episodes. We need to have a board on the wall. If we only had a studio.
If only we had a studio with a wall, he'll be on the wall.
Yep.
Okay, cool.
What did we do? We did a lot. So let's get through it quickly. Speaking of contrasts, we started having breakfast at a place called LouLou, run by Australians. Didn't see any Australians there.
No.
Didn't talk to any Australians. The waiters were great.
Yeah, it's very Insta-friendly, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, they got it all
Very
the
cute.
colours right and charming. Worth a look.
Definitely. Definitely. Yeah, it's really good.
You know what was cool about the contrast part of it? Across the road, the Cluny Museum. Now, Lina went home with Otis for the next 2 hours, so everything from here is me. So maybe you can ask me about it as part of a sort of...
Ah, okay. So, yeah, all I know is that a few years ago we went in to have a look, but it was under renovations, and so we can only see one room. What was the biggest takeaway? What was it like, why should I go there?
Yep. Well, you personally have seen the ancient Roman ruins. So if you're into old stuff, if you've already been to Rome and you want to see more of that, I mean, go to Rome if you want
someone
that
else.
stuff. Okay.
Why should someone else go see this?
The tapestries.
The
Lady and the Unicorn. Now, I heard about this before. I heard people sort of raving about the Lady and the Unicorn tapestries before. Never got it. Even when I first walked in, I didn't get it until I started reading about it. Do you know much about them?
No, tell me.
Okay, so there's 6 big tapestries in a really dimly lit room.
What's a tapestry?
Carpet on the wall.
Right.
Wall carpet. And there's 6 of them from 500 years ago. And what's cool about it is the symbolism and the meaning, trying to find meaning in them. And why I like it especially is imagine imagine huge, kind of faded but red tapestries, each featuring lots of sort of characters, but always a woman and a unicorn and a lion. Okay. And it's generally accepted that the first 5 of them about the senses. So one, she's like stroking the unicorn, that's touch. I might get this a little bit wrong, but it's generally
It's the gist.
right. One, she's playing an instrument, and the unicorn's like
It's the hearing.
Okay,
Yeah.
and so on. One, she's tasting something, whatever. But the 6th one, it's all about the 6th one, because what is the 6th sense?
Well, it's Haley, what's his name?
Joel
Osment. Sitting under a table
Bruce Willis.
with a unicorn.
I don't know. The thing is, no one knows what it is or what it's meant to be, but it's the woman. And this is what's cool, is you can go and actually try and read into it a little bit. There's a woman with her jewelry. She's like putting it in the box. Maybe she's taking it out of the box.
Greed?
Could be greed. There's a sign above her.
Vanity. Oh,
Maybe.
this is interesting.
And it says my one desire or something, right? So what does it mean? I don't know. And I was just thinking about it. Like, there's also all these extra animals and what they mean now, what they meant at the time. There's monkeys and stuff. Like, it's really cool.
Yeah.
There's something cool
I
about
love symbolism.
So there's the museum itself is beautiful. It's a middle-aged stuff. There's lots of gold, a lot of like heads of kings in stone from Notre Dame, that kind of stuff. If you're into old stuff, that's a great museum.
Cool.
But I won't dwell on it because,
Lots more happen.
Yeah, including the next 2 things I did without you as well.
Yeah.
I went to the Pantheon. Now I want to talk about this because the Pantheon is exceptional. I think it's just one of the best. And I think it's criminally underrated for things to do in Paris.
Well, it's very confusing because there's a Pantheon in Rome.
I think this Pantheon's better than the Roman one.
You do?
Yeah.
Does it also have a hole in the roof?
No holes in the roof.
No? Okay. I've been, but I can't remember. I remember the pendulum.
Okay, so let's compare the two for the sake of it. The big one in Rome, everyone goes in, sort of there's 1,000 people in there, walks out, I'm tired, it's too hot.
Yeah. There's
Let's
a
get
big
on with
hole
it.
in the roof.
Yeah.
Okay. Great.
But we're going to get hate mail. So, but the one in Paris is so cool because it's like pristine,
It's
new looking.
huge
It's
as
very,
well.
it's very beautiful. And there's got this big Foucault's pendulum.
And what is a pendulum?
Just a big ball on a huge piece of string that's going back
Connected
and forth
to the roof.
I'm going to get a
Ceiling.
bit deep here because I got thinking about this pendulum. Someone asked me, they're like, how do you find things to talk about in Paris? And I was thinking about it while I was in there by myself. And I was like, this pendulum swinging back and forth, always moving, is kind of like Paris for me, right? And I responded to this person, well, in Paris there's a million old stories, so it's very easy to find things to talk about. Like those tapestries, 500 years. Then there's new things also happening. So that Australian cafe, there's a story right there, right? But then there's new stuff happening to the old stuff. So what do I mean? The pendulum now, they've put a huge mirror underneath it. That's a cool talking point. That's a really beautiful, interesting thing. You look down on it and you see the ceiling. And by the way, that museum, when you go down to the crypt, it's so modern, like surprisingly modern for Paris. You can press on like a touchscreen, search who you want to find the tomb of. There's like Victor Hugo and Marie Curie. Everyone's down there.
Yeah, it's quite a collection.
The great people of France are down there. And you click the name and it like shows you the map for how to walk there, like something from Minority Report. Yeah. Only thing I could say negative about that place, no, you go up to the bookshop. There's a bookshop up there.
Yeah.
All these famous authors downstairs. You can only get the French versions of the books.
Really?
And I was like, why? Like, surely you could sell so many English books here. And she said, Brexit. They used to print them in the UK. It's too expensive to bring them over from America or Australia. Yeah, so they got rid of them all.
Really?
So I had to buy Les Miserables in French.
And you were quite miserable after that, I bet.
The other thing I'd say that's a bit negative, I didn't know you could climb up to the panorama, add $3 to your ticket, and you can climb to the top. But if it's too bright, they don't let you go up.
I love it. I mean, that's so confusing.
He said it's a risk.
I mean, what do you mean it's too bright?
I tried
like,
to...
how do you measure it?
I don't know.
It's like, nah, it's too bright.
Know.
Okay.
But
okay, good to know.
we'll give an Earful Tower tip here, only because I love this place so much. I want you listeners to get in there. When I rocked up, there was a long queue to get in, like probably 30 people. And then, like at an airport, there was an express line for e-tickets. And I was like, why is everyone not just buying an e-ticket? So it took me about 25 seconds to buy a ticket online, same price. I jumped onto the barrier, walked to the front. They go, do you have an e-ticket? I was like, yeah. He goes, go through there, skipping another 20 people.
Straight in.
Yeah. I said to the lady, I was like, why aren't they all getting e-tickets? She goes, I tell them, no one does it. Save yourself time. E-tickets. Whew. One last thing that wasn't anywhere near as impressive, but I want to touch on quickly. I crossed the road and went to the Saint-Genevieve Bibliotheque library. That was the remaining item on my bucket list. I don't know why. I've always been interested in getting in, especially because they make it really hard to visit. I had to do an inscription online to become a member, and even when I tried to get in, they were like, no, you can't visit.
You always want to be a part of the club that doesn't want to have you.
Yep. And he kicked me out. He literally kicked me out. And he's like, go and do this. And I went out and I was like, hang on, I've done this. And I went back in. They took a picture of me, gave me a card. I'm a member for 2 years. I went in. It was pretty cool. But
it was all right.
You know, the Coronelli globes that we saw in the 13th, they had smaller versions of them in this library.
Okay, so
much smaller.
Less impressive.
About 5% as impressive as the other ones.
Oh.
But if you're a Coronelli fan, like I know you are... become a member of the library.
All right, sold.
Okay, this gets interesting here. After you and Otis joined me again,
yes,
you were very keen to get down to the Jardin des Plantes.
I was, because I think it's such a the park itself is pretty beautiful. On one side of the park, you have the Natural History Museum, displaying all sorts of skeletons and just very nice. And then on the other side, there's the Paris Zoo.
Right. And we did it all.
We did it all.
So, what did you think of the Natural History Museum?
I really like it. I'm a big fan. It's very ancient and it definitely needs a paint job, but it doesn't matter. Like, everything's a bit dusty.
That's the fifth. That's the fifth. When we climbed up to the top floor, climbed because you can't. There's no elevators, even if you've got a baby or a pusher or wheelchair. So not very accessible.
Not very inclusive.
But the top floor, like wall paintings,
was peeling.
Yeah, they were as old as the giraffe skeleton. I saw. There's also dinosaur skeletons. There's elephant skeletons. It's pretty cool. And lots of curiosity.
I mean, if you're not into skeletons, this is probably not the place for you, because it's just jam-packed with skeletons.
Yeah, if you want, you know what you can do? You can walk past and see, like, the whatever whale it is. You can see his skeletons or hers as you walk past through the window. So if you want to tick it off without
as a little peek,
paying to get in.
A little freebie.
I found the staff to be kind of...
they don't care.
They didn't care at all.
They don't give a hoot.
Yeah, that was weird.
Weirdly. I don't know why, but they just don't. It was very hot. Don't go if there's a heat wave. Don't do like what we...
have done twice.
Yeah, what we did twice. Like when it was this huge heat wave a few years ago. And we were like, okay, let's cool off in a museum. No, not this one, because it's all like glass walls, glass ceiling. It's a lot of glass. Yeah, so it's so hot in there.
It's very pretty though, like with that.
Oh, it's stunning.
Is there a sunroof? I guess there is.
I can't remember. There's a lot of glass.
It's a weird building though. And so if you do go, make sure you got the steps, because there's an extra 2 floors of stuff. And
you can see it, like the bird's eye view of this place is very cool.
It looks like an old swimming pool, you know?
It does.
Or like a ship or something.
Yeah.
So that place gets the tick of approval. A bit more controversial with the zoo.
Yeah, not a huge fan.
It's an interesting one, because it says as you go in, the Menagerie it's called, it's the second oldest zoo in Europe or the world. Maybe in Europe it said, after Vienna.
Yeah.
Nothing we're doing here is sponsored, we can say the truth.
Yeah.
It was kind of underwhelming.
Yeah, I just wouldn't recommend it.
The coolest animals to see were the ones that you feel the worst are in captivity.
I know, the coolest was the saddest, and it just kind of left you with a bad taste.
So there was a snow leopard that was walking around. It was amazing, but then you're like, snow leopard shouldn't be here.
Yeah.
And like a massive orangutan.
Yeah, and it was just a lot of birds.
And a lot of birds too. So the animals that you most want to be free. Now, I don't know the full story. Maybe they're rescue and stuff like that. But you can't... It's hard to shake that feeling.
I know. It just... And I feel like the whole zoo was, just really quite run down.
Especially because it's so old. Like, they wouldn't have been able to, pump a lot of money into it. There are some zoos around the world. Like, we went to one in Sweden where you go on a chairlift over, was it the lions?
Yeah, it's the lions.
So
it's like
a huge enclosure.
Oh, it's so good.
Like those ones, you're like, okay, yeah. I mean, he'd probably still be in prefer the Masai Mara or something to
probably,
the plains of
but it's like 100 times better.
Anyway, so that's a bit. I mean, maybe it's something to do with kids, but if you got kids in Paris, I'd recommend the Bones across the road.
Definitely.
You want to know something weird that we did afterwards? Weird as in different.
Yeah.
Went to the mosque.
Yeah, that's not every day.
I feel like
for us, at least.
I feel like when you think of things that are in Paris, you don't think the Grand Mosque. but I can highly recommend
Oh,
it.
it was wonderful.
It was so cool.
I really already want to go back.
Yeah. Oh, just a quick aside. Later, I thought it'd be really fun to do either a bonus episode or a blog post or something, gathering everything we've done on this season and the places that we legitimately want to go back to. Because some you go for the story, you're like, done that, cross it off.
Yeah, don't really care if I never see it again.
Yeah. Whereas the mosque, it was cool. Now,
Yeah,
we'd
I'm
heard
like,
about
oh,
it.
I want to bring so-and-so to this place. I
Well,
want
the
to show
hammam, the massage or whatever they do,
Yeah, I
only
wanna
for
go
women.
there. Yeah.
Men aren't allowed.
I know.
Which is a stark contrast to the olden days. What was the movie that we saw? I can't remember what it's called in English, but in French it's called the Grande Vadrouille.
Whoa,
Do you remember
I have
that one?
no idea.
It was like British soldiers get stuck in
yes,
France.
yes.
and
Oh, I can't
Paris,
remember.
And
Yeah.
they go into that room, steam room, and they have a song that they whistle, like Tea for Two or something.
Yeah.
Remember
yes,
that?
that's right.
So I'd wanted to see it since we happened upon that movie. I'll write the name of the movie in the show notes when we look at it.
I'll just have to go and
Yeah,
tell you.
Yeah, that'd
Yeah.
be a cool episode too. But you can go there and drink tea and have delicious food. I was eating things I'd never had before.
Yeah.
It was really nice.
Oh, it's so
Staff
good.
are super friendly as well. And this indoor-outdoor tiled room, drinking iced tea.
Yeah, under the fig tree.
I would love to meet someone there. It feels like a cool place to meet someone.
Yeah.
And getting there, if you walk through the Jardin des Plantes, some really interesting statues at the back of that jardin.
They're really violent.
Yeah.
Like, really violent.
There's-
I feel like it's kind of taking a leaf out of what we said about the zoo.
Wow, funny
You
you said
know,
that. I
it's
was
like the
thinking that too.
revenge of the animals.
Yeah, there's two at least. There was one where there's a bear, like, killing a man, and the man had killed the baby bear.
I know,
Did you see the little
it's
baby
very
bear?
graphic.
And then the other one, these are crazy statues,
Yeah,
right?
they're-
The
yeah.
other one on the entrance, on what would be the south side, I guess, there's two lions, but under the lion's paw is a man's foot.
Yeah.
A statue of a man's foot, like he's eaten the rest of the man or something. How about that?
It's so violent. But yeah,
On a whole different note, night
yes.
fell.
as it often does.
We got a new babysitter, Louisa.
Yeah.
Thanks, Louisa.
Thank
Don't think
you.
she's listening.
Probably not.
And we headed straight to one of the best streets in Paris. You weren't a fan of this street.
So I thought.
That's what I mean. So
Yeah.
leading into it, because I was
Yeah.
like, let's go to Rue Mouffetard.
Yeah, and I was like,
Yeah.
in my mind, it was only like, you know, these, what do you call it, like pubs with a lot of flags hanging, you know,
Right.
with all the countries. That's what I thought, what I had in mind.
There is a street like that, Rue de Lappe, in the 11th.
Yeah.
Down near Bastille.
Yeah.
That's what
yes.
you were picturing.
Yeah. But only that, and
Yeah.
like really rowdy, and yeah, it was not like that at all.
How wrong you were.
I was so wrong.
And what was funny is you did get really into, speaking of being nerdy,
What did I
when we
get
parked the
into?
scooter down at the bottom of the hill, there's two fountains. So for anyone else who's into Paris ancient history, like I kind of am, there's this old river that we mentioned in the 13th, the Bièvre.
It's all gone now. It was all covered.
Yeah, they might reopen it one day. That's neither here nor there. The point is there are markers around town where it used to run. And when we started, parked the scooter, I was like, Lina, let's just have a quick look for some markers, because I know that it ran around here, like these medallions, bronze medallions on the ground. And Lina just became like a woman possessed. And you were like running around, like, here's one. You found like 4 or 5 of them. It's kind of like
I felt like Indiana Jane.
And there are also 3 or 4 big plaques mentioning where windmills were in the Bièvre. So if you like a treasure hunt, go and seek those out.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, that was cool. And then we walked up the street, really vibrant, happening, cheese shops, bars,
Fruit
restaurants.
shops. There was even a wedding going on. Oh, it was so stunning. So there was they kind of rented out the whole restaurant and the terrace area, and they had hired a band, so it was live music, and it was stunning for a wedding.
We got to the top of the street, and Charlotte, our researcher, recommended we go to Le Contrescarpe. Used to be visited by all the famous Hemingways and so on. He used to live around the corner. Nice. Perfect. I
Yeah.
feel like any of those bars on that roundabout there.
There's nothing majorly different or special about it. It's just definitely nice. You sit on the terrace, people watching.
I think it's a really good example of a place where you shouldn't trust the online reviews.
Yeah.
Because I think it's the kind of place where if you get a surly waiter, it's going to prompt you to leave a 1-star review. And out of intrigue, I looked up the TripAdvisor reviews on this place. Lots of bad reviews. We had a perfectly lovely time.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the fun is what you make it. If you got a terrace spot looking out over all these like lovely views and nice people, who cares if the waiter is slow? We had a great waiter, but I mean...
it's so good.
I mentioned Hemingway. We walked a little bit further and stumbled upon a restaurant called La Maison de Verlaine. Verlaine. How do you pronounce it? Yeah, Verlaine.
I just don't.
You don't? There's a sign saying that Hemingway also lived in this building. It's not the one that I've talked about on the show before. It's a different Hemingway apartment. And Verlaine lived there as well. And they got this old restaurant that seems popular with tourists.
Yeah, this is the place with all the cutouts of famous celebrities. It makes it look... I think what they had in mind is like they want to make it look like all these famous people visited, like Grace Kelly
Princess
and
Diana.
Jane Birkin and
way.
Diana.
I don't think it's true.
Yeah, I don't think so.
It could be, though.
Yeah, but, usually you get like signed to the chef or whatever.
It's true.
But this is just like a random newspaper.
Yeah.
Anyways.
It was lovely, though. It's very...
it's standard. It's nice.
Yeah, it was standard. Like, I wouldn't... It was kind of funny because we were thinking to go to the Tour d'Argent restaurant in the 5th. And then they're renovating that top floor, which I think is the... it's where Ratatouille is sort of based. And because they're renovating, you can eat out on the pavement. And we're like, I don't want to eat on the pavement. I want to go upstairs.
Not really the same thing.
And it sort of proved to me how much we do stuff in Paris. Not us, but everyone.
For the story.
Yeah. So this is a place you'd go for the story. The food was classic French stuff.
Yeah, fine. Definitely nothing special, but fine.
I had snails and so did the table next to me. And it was like something from a movie, Pretty Woman, essentially. One of the ladies picked up the snails and it went flying and hit some French people on the next table and they were less than impressed. It was quite a scene.
Oh yeah, they made a scene.
Yeah, it got all over a woman's handbag and her shirt. Snail, garlic juice. So be careful with your snails. The way to do it, stab it with your fork and then pick it up with that little tongue thing. Anyway, speaking of Hemingway, I was thinking, who are we to say the difference between that neighborhood now and in the days of Hemingway? So I asked my friend Sam Barrantes, who is a bit of a Hemingway expert, about the difference between the area now and then. You want to hear what he said?
Yeah, let's.
Hello, Oliver. This is Samuel calling in from my apartment in Bastille. And I see your question about Hemingway's old stomping grounds, especially up near the Place de la Contrescarpe, which is... in the south of the city, next to the Sorbonne, a couple different faculties at the Sorbonne. That area definitely wasn't as studenty and popular for tourists as it is now. Hemingway actually opens a movable feast with a description of that neighborhood. And he talks about the Café des Amateurs, which used to be a sad, evilly run cafe where the drunkards of the quarter crowded together. And I kept away from it because of the smell of dirty bodies and the sour smell of drunkenness. You will not find that sour smell anymore up at Place de la Contrescarpe. It is very popular amongst young students, as well as graduate students, especially law students up next to the Pantheon. This is on the Rue Mouffetard, which goes down to the bottom of the hill, where there is another Sorbonne faculty. Hemingway talks about walking down that narrow street, the Rue Ferrou. His life finished in a very luxurious apartment, and where he began up at the Place Contrescarpe, plenty of drunkards in the quarter. They have changed a bit now. I will say, though, that the Place Monge area is still much more interesting for tourists because there are fewer of them. You still get to have the sense of student life there. So he speaks about it in Movable Feast, really at the beginning of the book, and then he walks down the hill. So I hope that gives you a better idea of the life that Hemingway used to lead and the kind of glimpses we can still see of that world today.
Makes you want to read A Movable Feast again. Wait, have you read it?
Yeah, a couple of times.
Really?
Yeah.
Probably one of those ones that you can revisit a couple of times now that when you get to know a little bit more about Paris and his neighborhood.
Exactly.
A shout out to Sam's work. Samuel has been writing and teaching creative literature in Paris since 2010. You can find out more of his work, ifnotparis.substack.com, including serialized novellas. Check him out. He's also the voice of Hemingway whenever I've done Hemingway stuff in the past and videos.
Yeah, talented guy.
Talented Mr. Barrantes.
Yes.
Speaking of Hemingway as well, by the way, it's not far from Contrescarpe is that church, the Etienne Dumont, it's called, where Midnight in Paris steps are.
Yeah.
And if you watch the YouTube video, you'll see it was kind of funny actually. we were going to do a little piece to camera or something.
Yeah, but that is like, nah, let's turn it into an Easter egg.
Yeah, and so I just sat on those steps and then like looking at my watch, like waiting for the car to come or whatever. And then the bells started tolling.
I know, it's amazing.
Not for midnight, but for 8 p.m. or something.
Yeah, just like the movie,
So-
except it was like that.
Yeah. So we finished the night doing something pretty cool.
Something I've been wanting to do for a while now,
I think
actually.
it was on one of your bucket lists from previous years. Caveau de la huchette. Caveau is like cave or cavern downstairs. We talked about this in a previous episode. I said that there are two things that are quite touristy that I don't really recommend. I think one was like the Champs-Élysées, and I said the other one's coming in an upcoming episode. It's this bit. It's around the Caveau de la huchette.
Yeah.
It's like 4 streets that are really small, and it's full of like kebab shops and tourist shops.
Maybe that's what I had in mind. You know, with like pubs with lots
For
of
Mouffetard,
flags.
yeah. I don't rate
I
that
don't
area
know.
at all.
No, I'm not a
totally
huge
honest.
fan.
I don't care about that part
No.
of town. I wouldn't ever meet someone there or go there. I'm sure there's cool places in there, and the Huchette place that we're going to talk about was cool.
Yeah.
But it's one of those overwhelmingly tourist spots. Like you're shoulder to shoulder with people. I don't really see the charm about it.
To me, that's not Paris at all.
And there's that little street, the Chaki Pêche, like the narrowest street in Paris.
Yeah.
Don't care.
No, who cares? You can touch 2 walls. You can do that at home.
But the Caveau, the jazz place, was really cool.
Yeah,
I like it.
that
If
was
you've seen
nice.
La La Land, it's referenced. It's referenced in that movie.
I'd go back.
Totally. And it's a cool entrance. Like you go in, there's a bar, friendly guys at the bar, really lovely dudes
Yeah.
there. You get your drink and you go down like a winding staircase. Not friendly if you're if you find it difficult to walk down steps.
Yeah, definitely not.
Not easy
it's
at all.
very narrow, like these old stone covered, it just looks like you're entering a basement, like a very old basement.
Yeah.
Which you are.
If there wasn't it looks like anything could go on down there. Like if it could be like a you wear masks and don't come out for 4 days kind of place. But it was it was pretty cool. Like the entry, you go in and it opens up into a dance sort of area, and people doing like I don't know what it was, like Lindy Hop kind of dancing.
Yeah.
Jazz musicians having a really good time, and people sitting around the edges watching. Luckily, we invited friends, but due to them saying no to us, no one came along. And it's actually a good thing because if you wouldn't want to go there with 10 people.
No, I mean, if you do, I think you have to be there really early.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to go there with 4 people.
Yeah.
Like it's go by yourself or with someone else because we ended up sitting on like
Some steps.
tiny little
and-
steps. But it was cool, and I thought it was very fun and very Parisy. There was a French guy playing music. Right after we sat down, they had their break, their intermission, and I went up to him, Matthieu Boré, and I asked him a little bit about the jazz scene in Paris and the neighborhood. Here's what he said, and I think you'll be able to hear the music in the background, so you can feel like you're there with us.
If you had to describe the 5th arrondissement, is it different to the other parts of Paris?
Yes, for sure. You got le Pantheon, things like that. La Rue Mouffetard.
Yeah.
Ouais. It's quite it's a arrondissement for tourists.
Yeah.
So
There are a lot of tourists that come to the Caveau de la Huchette, right? Someone told me there's 60% tourists there. Do you think that's fair?
yeah, maybe.
Okay.
But it changed with the time. Because when I start, so a few years ago, we won't say
We won't say how many decades it was. Right?
There were especially dancers, Parisian dancers. Now we've got a lot of tourists and young people who just want to have fun, and so it changed a lot.
Is that good or bad?
I would say it's good
Cool.
because we have to play jazz for the new generations. Otherwise, this music is gone. Will be dying.
And I saw you playing now on the piano. It was amazing to watch. It was great to watch. People were loving it. Why should people come to see jazz when they're in Paris?
Because it's fun and you can dance. I mean, you can sing. Well, that's the jazz. That's the jazz I play. I mean, you can go in different places where you could hear some more intellectual jazz, but the jazz I play and the jazz you can hear in Le Caveau de la Huchette, it's jazz for fun.
Yeah. And I love it. And I won't take any more of your time. Good luck with your second set.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you're in Paris right now, he mentioned at the end that he'd be playing at Sunside on Rue de Lombard, July 13th. Another good place for jazz. We were going to dance,
I know.
but the intermission happened so soon.
Yeah, it rescued us.
You were mumbling something about Montparnasse Tower? What was all that about?
Well, it just came into my mind. I was like, oh my God, I have the best, what do you call it? Like when
Analogy?
you like analogy. So we are like the Montparnasse Tower on the dance floor.
Explain yourself.
Yeah, okay. So what I'm thinking is like no one likes the look of it. It's an eyesore. But when you are in the Montparnasse Tower as like when you're us
Yeah.
and looking out, it's great.
You got the best
You got
view.
the best view.
So we're Montparnasse Tower dancers.
Yeah, with
I like
Montparnasse
it.
on the dance floor.
You saying we're not good at dancing?
I mean, what do you think?
Let's wind this thing up with some scores. I'm curious to hear your scores.
All right.
For those who came in late, this is where Lina and I give our scores out of 10.
Highly scientific way of judging an arrondissement.
Well, a lot of people that follow on Instagram or whatever and they don't listen to the podcast, every time I share scores and stuff, they're like, how are you justifying this?
Freak out.
Those guys, I wish they'd just listen and
Yeah.
understand. Let's go through it quickly. Strollability.
8.
I gave it a 10.
Oh,
I thought it was extremely strollable.
yeah.
You're
I
a
see
tough
what you
judge.
mean.
No, 8 and 10 are pretty
Yeah, but
tough.
it's big-ish.
Yeah. Affordability.
6.
You gave it a 7.
Okay.
It doesn't surprise me my scores are higher than you in this district. Shareability.
10.
I gave it an 8.
Oh. Well, this is
It's
all
high
over the
scores,
place.
though. High scores.
Yeah.
Touristability.
9.
8.
Uh-huh.
I was a bit... My logic there was...
You didn't like the zoo.
I think if people list out their top 20 things to see in Paris, none of them might be in the
Yeah,
fifth.
it's on the B side.
Accessibility.
8.
I gave it a 10.
Oh,
I don't know why I gave it
Why?
a 10.
that's too generous. Anyways, my total's up to 41. How about you?
43.
Ooh.
That takes it to 84. That's the top score ever. Wow, that surprises me.
I
That
think it's
does
because
surprise
it's
me.
cheaper.
Yeah, it's cheaper.
Yeah.
One thing we haven't done at all before we finish is a shout out to the 2 bookshops in the area, Shakespeare and Company
Yes.
and the Abbey Bookshop. Both great places to grace with a visit if you're in town. I'm Oliver G, the host. I think that's the first time I said my name.
I think so.
Terrible host
Yeah,
skills.
weird.
You're Lina Norton G.
Yes, I am.
For anyone wondering, we're married.
Surprise.
We've been, and this podcast has been around for a good 5 years now. So if you like it, share it with your friends. That's how this thing grows. And thanks for listening.
Thank you.
See you next week with the 4th arrondissement, the Marais.
Ooh.
Here we go.
Thank you.